We're 1 minute away, but I think I'll just kickstart as well. Welcome everyone to our August Zoho user session. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question, because these sessions really emulate what we did. We started doing the sessions face to face over 5 years ago, so 5 years in a row that we've been doing these free sessions for users that have used CRM, Zoho CRM, or are just new to it, or have been using it for years. And we just use it as a platform to share tips, things we learn, new things we find on the CRM, because there's launches every month of new features, and also just to share best use cases and reply to any questions you may have. So Gravity, Martin, we started using Zoho years ago, so quite a long time ago, 8-9 years ago, and just we were using so many different CRMs that Zoho CRMs kept winning between different platforms. We were testing, we were using Salesforce, my God, I forgot how many, Act, Goldmine, there's all sorts. So this is kind of how we got to run these sessions, and just thought it would make sense to share with the community, and the community in Milwaukee to start with, and then when we open online, well, now everyone can join. So with me is Andrew as well, at Gravity. So feel free to text any questions you have on the Q&A section that should be on your left side of Zoho meetings, or just unmute and ask a question, and have no problem in interrupting, because this is it's not intended to be a presentation, but more of a conversation. So I would love actually to answer any questions you have on how you're using the CRM. So feel free to interrupt, please. Some topics we brought today, because we had these questions from other users quite frequently, is how to use dashboards and how to use them for their teams, for themselves, to share with the CEO, or from a CEO perspective, sometimes just actually, how do I look at the company with an overall. So I wanted just to share, where should you start when you're using Zoho CRM? Before I start going into the platform, could I just ask, just to have a feel of how long have you been using Zoho CRM? So there's a little poll. If you could just give me a feel to know how geeky I need to be. Okay. Some people not using yet. Okay, transform goals into powerful visual metrics, choose the right reports, build your dashboards. Basically, what this means is Zoho CRM is organized in a way as any kind of system where you need to know what you're looking for to be able to extract the data you need. So my first exercise I would do, and I would suggest, is as a team or individually, define what are the goals and the KPMs. You might already have an Excel file that you want to track your activity, or some other ERP tools, other CRMs that you're migrating from, or you just have your own of your mind, the goals you want to track. So these are just a few examples. When you want to, for example, grow sales by 10% this year, what do you need to do? What are the things that you could be tracking in the CRM beside that global number, right? You probably want to look at sales pipeline, so new business revenue, number of opportunities per month, dollars quoted. These are just a few examples of the things you could be capturing with the CRM. And then you can go more into sales activity specifically. Am I tracking calls, tasks, meetings, emails sent to prospects? And there's a lot the CRM can help you there to grow sales results. Not kind of the topic today, but open to any questions. And generating more leads. So for example, do you want to look at volume of qualified leads per month, volume of prospects added? Do you want to see even activity related stuff, like how many accounts is your team adding, or contacts? So let's go and jump into the platform to see how we can get to this, which is a dashboard that's tracking activity, pipeline, results, conversion rates, depending how geeky you want to go. You can do it all. So let's just look at a demo account here, an example. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to take that out of your view. Okay, so let's look at Anna's home. So this is, the CRM is organized with Zoho CRM with a home, where you can bring whatever you want to this front view. Let me just close a few things here. It's integrated with the chat system as well, and that's what I was closing there. It's also integrating with the activity that I have on my website, so I can see live if someone else is on the website. That's what you're saying there. And it's integrated with my email as a CRM system, so I get notifications of prospects or clients that have opened my emails, and then I can actually go through and see if there's anything I want to check from here without having to dive deep into my Outlook, which sometimes we get lost in there, as you probably know. All right, so where should you start? So if you have a very specific metric in mind, I would advise you to jump into your dashboard section. If you if you don't have a Zoho CRM account, just go and create a free one. We have a sign up link in our website if you want to follow that. If you have one, you will probably have you have two options when you create a new account. You can have like a demo data imported in automatically by Zoho. That's just dummy data to allow you to see some stuff. If you don't want to do that, just start clean slate and then start adding like an account for your test purposes and a contact and a potential, so you start to see some numbers. So where to start? I would always start on the dashboard. This can be called also analytics in certain versions of Zoho CRM. It's the same thing. You basically get to a section that has a lot of graphs. I advise starting here on this section because it allows you to see the type of data. What are you looking for? Because probably it's very likely that it's already there. If you're looking, for example, at sales funnel for the year or sales funnel for the total organization from leads to conversion customer rates, for example, you could have a graph like this, and then you can customize it to go a bit more into detail. That's what we're going to see how to do today. If you want to track a more account contact activity, do you want to see accounts by sales by account? Do you want to see accounts by industry? Do you want to see the accounts created by industry this year, for example? What's new? What are people adding? What is your team adding? Or yourself, which is just don't have a track of that. So I'll advise starting with dashboards because it's just so visual and allows you to see right away, yes, this is something I want. And then it's easy to go and customize each one of these. To clone them so you don't mess with them if you want, you can just clone and then edit. And then for more specific data, we'll go a little bit into reports because Zoho has a ton of reports already built in that you can easily customize to adjust to the data you want to see and how you want to see it. And then those reports can be also transformed into more graphical elements. So let's start with a simple element, right? This is an example of I want to have a feel for how many leads are created by month. And leads here in this sense would be, for example, everything that came via the website, like a contact us form or an RFQ form, or that I added manually because I have an outside sales team that it's generating leads for me and I want to vet them before I actually convert them into an account and a contact. To someone who just called in, we picked up the phone, we just added that because that needs to be reviewed by the sales team, for example. Different things that we could be classifying here as a lead. So if you see something like this that you want, you could, let's clone. So you know you can clone it with leads by day. Let's call it a demo so we know it's just dummy data. The way the CRM is organized is bringing information from different modules. So you select your top module here. So it's going to tell you, okay, I'm talking about leads. If you want some information related to that module, then you would be looking at a related module relationship. For example, if you wanted to see a bit more detail on products associated with leads or tasks or meetings, emails associated with leads, any one of these you can aggregate. And if you're not familiar with the CRM structure, I might have to go just a step back here, where you have leads as anything that's come in and kind of describe those. Accounts are the companies you work with. So if you're in B2B, there's usually this will include your clients, your prospects, your partners, any referrers, any organization. So this accounts is the company, contact is the people who work, includes people who work at those accounts. And then for each one of these, you can have several tasks, several meetings, calls that you want to do. And then you have where I say where the money is in the potential section, which is really what's going to build your pipeline. So the potential is, so for some companies call it a project, some companies call it an RFQ. It's really all the sales process should be embedded in the potential because sometimes it takes actually reviewing that lead from stage one, qualifying that lead, and that could be a stage one of potential until you close one and you have your revenue. So a bit of a short view there, but just to be easier to understand. So let's look at leads per month, how it's working. So I'm selecting the leads I want to see because that's the kind of module, but I could also use it for accounts, for contacts that are created every month. In terms of measures, everything that is a variable, a numeric variable, it's going to show up here. So when you're setting up your CRM, if you haven't done it yet, it's very important to make sure you're using numbers as types of fields. So then you can have things like this, sums, averages, tops, counts. Count is not the case because counts records. You don't need a number. And then you can group that. So how do you want to group, for example, created by, per month? You could create by fiscal year, week, calendar week. And then you can have criteria, for example, let's say you only want to see the contacts that are owned by me, right? Let's say I just want to see mine contacts. Or because you're probably doing this at an organizational level, let's say you just want to see the contacts where the lead source, for example, contacts that came from Gravity Prospecting. Let's say we have them as a marketing team. We do prospecting for a lot of our clients. So let's say I just want to see what has been created here. And then you have a little bit of another element that I particularly like. I particularly like the benchmark because I want to say, okay, I want to set a goal of 10 per month or 20 per month. And you can also define how you're going to sort them. But these are optional. So I'm just going to generate so you can see what it does. So it automatically brings, you have to customize your title, obviously. Change this into leads. I don't want any because I want all. And the group I want created per month. There we go, added our trend line or our goal line, as I like to say it, and these are your lead goals. You could also, on this edit section, change, depending on how you want to see the data, a different type of graph. Obviously here you lose the benchmark idea. So what else can you do? Once you are in this dashboard section and you've edited, so I would always clone, edit the new one so you can play with it to get to how you want to see the data. This one I definitely prefer as a column. Then you can easily embed in a URL if you want to put it outside of the CRM, or just add to the home section. So when you add to the home section, now your home is going to have, it's going to show it here at the bottom, the graph you just created. And that's an easy way for you, for example, if you want to set it up so other users see the same as you, you can share that with the home. Or just something that it's the first thing you want to see when you wake up. Okay, let's look at other things that I think you should be exploring from a dashboard perspective. So there's all the lead side, and the lead side could be a bit more sophisticated depending on how you have data. If you have, for example, leads by state or by city, or depending on your local region and the markets you're targeting. So you could do those clusters as well. Another thing I usually like to have is just a feel for how many accounts, contacts have been created, because that shows a different type of activity. That's usually a salesperson really going through that company, trying to identify prospects, and there's work in that. So if I wanted to add a component from scratch and I'm not duplicating, I have a selection. This is another way to see it, where I have a selection of, do I want just a simple chart? A quick chart is going to give us what we have here, what we just saw. From reports, this will bring the list of reports you have built. And then that gives you a lot of flexibility. That's when you say, okay, this is something very specific I want. Let's build the report first, and then it becomes available to be worked as a chart. Okay. Other options you have, for example, let's say you want to see data side by side. Let's say you want to compare your salespeople and you want to see different stages that they're at. Let's do this one. This is a fun one. So let's say we just want to sales by team member. Okay. Let's say I just want to compare among users, and I just want to compare. I'm just going to put myself, like Elizabeth, on this one. And then this is going to build all your tiers. So let's say your first module is actually leads, for example, count of leads created this year. I'm going to be generous and let's say by the users. So I can have a criteria and I can say the owner, let's say lead owner isn't someone else. Okay, so I can go at this level, or you could use other elements, for example, depending on your business and when you're trying to track. This obviously depends on the variables you have set up from start. That's when I work with companies supporting them in CRM projects is about we map all the sales flow, what we want to track, what type of metrics we want to see at the end. But we, from experience, it's fairly easy for us to understand what needs to be in place. And then we customize the CRM to be able to have those variables in place. So then you can have your dashboards easily done. You can add, there's also an option to add trends, and you can define if the trend is, in some cases, trends a positive, an increase is positive or negative depending on the variable. So you have that flexibility. And then very important, and this is something new, you can have just blunt previous period, which means the previous year, the previous month, or you can have previous period relative that I would suggest using, because then you are comparing apples to apples. Let's remove this because this doesn't make sense. Okay, now let's say you want to add ads, but you actually also want to see proposals because you want to see something further down the line. Then you could come here and go to your potentials modules, count all potentials that are at the stage of proposal. All right, proposal, if they've done presentation of their proposal or negotiation review, I would include them in this phase. Closing date this quarter. Just gonna save it so you can see how it looks. So now you're starting to have your salespeople, and each one of these is a layer. And this is a very good visual element. There's not many softwares that do this, that bring information from different sections. So you're actually comparing, you can see a full flow, right? Although this is bringing leads, this is bringing proposals, this is bringing potentials. You can go down and then add revenue. In a snapshot, you can have a very good view of the activity of that person, right? And what you're considering, activity, performance. It's a totally different way to see results. I don't know if there's any questions. Let me know if you have any, because then I'm very happy to go and share a specific example. This is a simpler element, so kind of exploring the elements you have. You have charts, KPIs would be an example like this, and Zoho gives you a very good visual of how it's going to look. So depending on the data you have, if you're just looking total account or total revenue, you could do something like this. If you want to have something like a true funnel or just the more traditional pipeline, you could have these visuals. And it's going to build the same logic of stages we just saw. There's a new zone one that I can show you, target metered. This is a very cool one, and you have, and just, I think this is super cool when you can use this then in meetings. And the best practice also is bring your dashboard, and if it's there, it has been done, it has been well categorized in Zoho, so that means people are using it appropriately. But it also allows you to see data in real time, independent of what time you're building your report or what time you're doing your presentation for the board. A target view, different ways to see target, and then if you want to set targets for different people, different regions, different types of industry, for example, you can be as specific as that. So these are cool ones. Actually, let me add one of those because I think these are super cool. Okay, let's say this is your Q3 or revenue. We set the you can have a target for the entire organizations or per user. Here I'm going to obviously select my potentials module because that's where the money is. And I'm going to have the sum of amount because I want to see dollars. And the criteria here, I'm going to choose everything that's one. So stage, I could go and select the ones that are one. but I would want the ones, I can also select this as a shortcut to say all that I want, so you don't have to select all of yours. Closing date is year. Let's say the target is, I have no idea what data is in there, but let's just look at it. Okay. So very good way to see entire organization, and then you can break it down per users. Any questions on this or anything you'd like to see? Okay, let's do something different. Then let's look at reports. So Zoho will come with, the dashboards will come with all sorts of options. This is a cool one as well to look at full conversion. It gives you different stages, but then it also allows you to actually see, for example, lead source or industry or location or region. So it allows you to see not just the conversion that's happening, but actually where it's coming from. What else do I want to show? I want to show you reports. So dashboards are the pretty side. Reports are the detail side. So when you look at a, for example, let's look at this. I wanted to build a very specific targeted prospecting initiative with the sales team. I wanted to see what was being generated in the past for each one of these. So I needed to build a very specific report. So the reports are very intuitive. I'm going to skip this because you have columns that you can add to. So you can add information to columns, and every variable you have in the CRM, you can just click and bring it in. This is not going to make any sense, but I'm just going to show you so you can see how it works. And then rows the same. So here we're looking at lead source, but let's say we want to add something else, the same logic that you can add. And you can bring from all modules, so you can actually see just the ones that are being tagged to this report. When I created the report, I selected accounts and contacts. Okay. Let's cancel this change. You can group columns and aggregate columns, and you can have filters. So filters is very powerful functionality of Zoho. I think it's worth explaining because there are basic filters of just, when information was created, but then there's really value is in the advanced filters. So here now you can start saying, for example, if you have a lot of junk leads you don't want to look at, or a dead contacts you don't want to look at, you can just exclude those so you have clean reports that allow you to see data that's live and meaningful. So you can add this when you add, and you can add more than one, and you can add a and or functionality to a report. So this basically allows you to be able to create anything you want. You can add your pattern as well if you want to be a bit more specific. And then you can run the report just to see if you chose anything as you wanted. You can save it, and you now have access to the report from the dashboard section. So when you want to add a component, sorry, this is not what I wanted to do. Let me go to my demo. Obviously, it needs to be a chart. So quick chart from reports. Let's look at our potentials reports, and then we're going to have a lot of reports available. Everything that has, if you run a report that's just data in terms of just text, like column data, you wouldn't see a report, obviously, because you need to aggregate that data in some sort of way. Otherwise, it's just a table. So if you're doing this, it allows you to, every time that it notates there's a dollars amount or there's a number that can be summed, it will that can have a sum. You can do it here, and you can also by type, and again you have your benchmark options and the sort by. Okay, I'm just going to say this demo 3. So now we have different revenue buckets in this case. Let's just go back to the settings so we can see what we did there. Stage versus potential type. So it's the type of the potential. So this is a field set up in potentials. Sum of amount, and we're grouping it by type. If we group it by stage, it's going to give us my stage of the potential. Is it in proposal stage, negotiation review, one complete, closed stalled, closed lost? Which stage that? Yes. Okay. Well, let me see if there's any questions, because we could go, it takes time to build a dashboard, a good dashboard. But the first step is really kind of what I shared before, which is defining your KPMs first that support your goals. So this is where usually the work is being very specific on knowing what do I want to measure, and then making sure you have those options on the back end so you can have your dashboards. Once you have your dashboards, what I suggest is start at the dashboard level or analytics tab, depending on if you haven't renamed it, it would have one of these. Use that pre-built option to check the gallery as well for more options. And then only go for report if you really don't have anything available there, because then there's a bit more time involved in that. And create the graph from the reports to be able to share that element. For these fields, ideally, when you're setting up your CRM, you want to make sure, so let's just have a sneak peek here, for an example. When you're looking at your back end, you want to think of your CRM that everything you can have as, for example, a pick list. And a pick list is nothing else than a list of options, right? So if you have industry A, B, and C, and you're kind of telling your salespeople, okay, this is a key field and this is data I want in here, or you're doing mass updates of the data, this will allow you to obviously cluster information in a lot easier way. Instead of having, if you have 100 industries, then you're probably going to have data in 100 different industries instead of having 10, 20, something a bit more manageable. So every time you can use the correct type of field, pick list option, or if you're looking at numbers, always choose your number or your currency if you're talking about sales, or quoted amount, because this will allow you then to build dashboards and reports to actually run the sums for you. Okay, instead of single lines fields. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, I would suggest, well, if you have any questions, please let us know while we're on the call in the next minutes. If not, visit our blog, because we have resources that we share every month with everything that comes out new, or the recording of these sessions, because the point is really to share with other users and also learn from other users. So if there's something you're using, it would be very helpful just to share with us. Okay, I don't know if we'll have any questions. I'll give you a few more minutes. I could talk for hours on dashboards. The quick tip is, as you go through reports, I strongly advise you to, because there's a lot, right? There's a very big list of reports. If you set on a report, just add your little star to it, because then it's very easy to find them on your favorites. That will make it easier to go through. And if you want to create one from scratch, the interface, it does have help sections, but you can basically connect things that are connected. So for example, report on accounts and contacts for their accounts, show all accounts created with or without contacts, or show only accounts created with contacts. I want all the accounts because that's the information I want to see. And then you have the structure of your report where you can drag and drop things to change your columns. You can delete things you don't care about, and you can add more columns to suit the report you want to see. And then, very important, remember your filters. Create your filters so you only see information you want on the advanced section. Okay. I think this is me for tips today. I hope you enjoyed the session, and looking forward to seeing you in our next one. We'll have a webinar coming in soon, so do check your email, because we will be announcing webinar on other marketing tips, but then our Zoho CRM session will be next month. For joining us. See you next time.
Thank you.